What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, it is Rivalry Week, which is always a fun week in college football. So we've picked out 7 of the rivalries this week. We'll be watching a whole lot more, obviously. It's a shame that it's Rivalry Week, and man, the Iron Bowl's got no stakes. But here we are, still Rivalry Week, still a fun weekend to watch football.
Yeah, there's definitely you could say a little bit missing, but the fact that these rivalries have been going on for so long, I mean, everybody's still going to watch. I'm still going to watch the Iron Bowl.
Yes.
Cadillac is going to get his opportunity in the Iron Bowl. So it's like there's still something to watch there. You got, Florida State on Friday night. That's interesting that they kind of moved it to a showcase kind of a setting, things like that. So, every fan base will definitely still be clued in because this week's important because, you're playing for Christmas. You're playing for who you're going to brag to your family about, next time you see them. And most likely you're done seeing them on Thanksgiving. So you're going to be, ready to brag for the next year on if your team's winning. Some of these schools that have had long winning streaks might be coming to an end this time. So we'll see. It happened last year with Michigan and Ohio State. Who's going to be that this year, to kind of break a streak?
So before we pick our 7 games, I'll say on the front end, I'm going to cheat and give you 3. So if you want to give more than one, you can.
That's fine.
No pressure, though. What's a game we're not picking you're excited to watch?
So I got to start, Jacob, and you know where this is going.
I know.
All right. I've been since May, since we had our good friend David Cobb.
Cheers to you.
With CBS Sports. David Cobb joined us, stock up, stock down in May. And I said, LSU's going 10-2 this year. Y'all both looked at me jaw dropped. Now, was I telling myself the truth at that point? I don't think I was. But we got to fall camp. I doubled down on it. Back then, it was based around Miles Brennan, who hasn't been on the roster since the beginning of August. So make no mistake, I am not a genius by any means. I do know that college football tends to jump and get you when you're not expecting it. And I was just trying to zig when everyone else was zagging. I tended to do that with this. Now, it happened a little differently than I said. I thought that LSU was going to lose 2 games. I thought they were going to lose 2 games to Alabama and to Texas A&M. Subsequently, if they win against a 3-7, whatever they are, Texas A&M team on Saturday, then they are going to be 10-2 as I foretold back in May and have doubled down every week of the year. So 10-2 LSU. I'm be looking at that LSU Texas A&M game. Shout out to my sister-in-law Amy and all of her LSU people. Hopefully you're enjoying Brian Kelly. I guess I'll just for the sake of it say I'm interested to see Florida State and Florida that Friday night, see how it goes because Florida has had that long dominance recently, and Florida State is clearly the better team this year, but who knows what's going to happen.
In that rivalry, I just want to mention Chip Patterson mentioned this on the Cover 3 podcast. I'm pulling it up, that this rivalry, while it has been even-ish as far as teams winning games, it has not been close. So since 2007, there's only one game that was not double digits. And that was in, 2014. Since then, the winner has blown out the loser. Florida State's a 9.5-point favorite. So take that for what it's worth when thinking about that game. I thought that was funny. Daniel, I'm going to give a few. Number 1, the Big 12. So I'm going to call it a couple of games in the Big 12. The other spot for the Big 12 championship is wide open. So a couple of games in play here. Texas plays Baylor. If Texas wins, they are in the Big 12 championship against TCU. All right. Kansas State. They need to beat Kansas. All right. And then they need Texas to lose. Then it would be between it would be between Baylor and Kansas State, where Kansas State has the head-to-head.
Right.
So Kansas State needs Texas to lose and they need to win. Texas just needs to win. So that's fun in the Big 12 as far as
Absolutely.
again, they've had parity all year. It is the last Saturday and we still don't know who's going to play next weekend. That's fun.
Who do you
Um,
think TCU, sorry to sidebar it, who
no,
do
no,
you
no.
think TCU wants to play
Texas.
next week?
Texas.
You think they want Texas?
Yes.
Okay.
I
I would
love
argue they don't want Texas. I would argue that they don't want to give them a second shot.
I will say whoever wins will be favored against TCU next week. Just like power ratings right now, TCU is like it depends. They could be above Texas, but Kansas State consistently right now is the highest rated Big 12 team.
Interesting.
And Texas is over TCU still, and probably half of the numbers I look at, but there's a really good chance TCU is an underdog next week, which
That's fun.
we'll get to talk about it, which
That's
is fun. Two more. Minnesota plays Wisconsin, and of my best preseason win total bets, that is my only one that has not been decided yet. A Minnesota win gets me the over 7.5 on Minnesota. So go
Is that the
Gophers.
Paul Bunyan axe?
Yep, longest rivalry in college football. So
just a great name
also
as
fun.
well.
Lastly, Daniel, there is a team that is on a 2-game conference winning streak, and now they got a home game against a rival, because the Vanderbilt Commodores host Tennessee. And look, I hate it for Hendon Hooker. I hate that he's hurt. Great kid, great quarterback. Hope he has a long NFL
Great
career.
future.
But Joe Milton's playing quarterback for Tennessee on Saturday. That line's at 14. I'm taking the points with Vandy, Daniel. And here's the thing. Vandy's 5-6. Vandy's now playing for a bowl. Tennessee gets officially eliminated from the playoff last week.
Right.
Is a Year 6 bowl really important? To me, it should be, because you're a year ahead of schedule. To me, if you're Tennessee, like you're in year 2, you were contending for a playoff spot under Josh Heupel. How big does Hendon Hooker's injury put them behind? Can Vandy get a lead in this game early and protect it? Excited to watch that one.
It's very interesting. Friend of the show, Barton Simmons, general manager at Vanderbilt.
Shout out.
So obviously, go Doors.
Daniel, let's get to our 7 games. Thanksgiving Day. I love that the Egg Bowl is on Thanksgiving. I know that the Cowboys and Lions have a tradition of playing on Thanksgiving. I love that those games are at 12 and 4, because at 7:30, I'm watching the Egg Bowl. And this is the perfect way to end Thanksgiving. Ole Miss at home as a 2.5-point favorite. Daniel, there's a lot of other stuff off the field going on around this game. Can Ole Miss block out the noise and beat Mississippi State?
The answer is yes. Okay. I'm going with Ole Miss. I'm going with them to cover. I'm going to get that out of the way right out of the gate. Ole Miss last week was embarrassed against Arkansas, but I think that it just got away from them early as far as the score. It caused them to do some different things here and there throughout the game. They closed the gap late, which it wasn't that close scoreboard wise, but I mean yardage wise, I mean they had 700 yards offense, so like they, had a great day moving the ball. They just had trouble finishing when they needed to. So I think Ole Miss is able to do what they need to do against Mississippi State to, first of all, win this game and win by at least 3. They're at home. I think I feel pretty confident in that. I think Mississippi State's going to give them a great shot. I just trust that this, whatever ends up happening with Lane, they're either going to want to send him out well, because I think he's going to get the players to play for him, or if he is in fact staying and has, whatever with the team and they rally with him. I mean, I think to a certain extent that stuff matters, especially with college kids, but I also think that Ole Miss has the better players. Ole Miss has been better by and large for the whole year. Mississippi State's still a good ball club, but this is in Oxford. Lane Kiffin's the better coach, and they've got the better team. So I also like the turn in general that this Ole Miss defense has made. You got to look holistically. Last week was not good against I almost said Arizona, against Arkansas, just tackling and stuff with running the ball when it's cold and it's like they're, pounding you. So if they can turn that around a little bit this week against the air raid offense, I'll be interested to see. But so far, these showings have been in Kiffin's favor. So I'm gonna ride with Kiffin and with Ole Miss.
Daniel, the problem with riding with Kiffin is Kiffin going to be the head coach at Ole Miss come Friday? He's going to be the head coach Thursday night.
They don't have a game Friday. They got a game Thursday though.
That's
So I'm
right.
gonna take them then.
I'm taking Mississippi State plus the points, and this is out of principle. This is whether or not Ole Miss is going to be the head coach at Auburn come Friday. He's at least been talking about it. Like, he's at least talked to people at Auburn, talked to his agent. He's interviewed. His focus has not been solely on Mississippi State. Those players have to hate. Again, even if he were to announce tonight, which go check out some reports on Inside the Rebels 24/7. Even if he were to announce the players tonight, he's going to be the head coach next year. They've at least had to deal with it off the field. And I think, like, you're dealing with college kids. This is a rivalry game. Ole Miss is kind of reeling. As far as matchup wise, I do think a big part of this game is, strength on strength, and that Ole Miss on offense, great rushing offense. Mississippi State has a great defensive line, great rushing defense. So I like that matchup as far as like being able to at least neutralize that strength that Ole Miss has. Ole Miss's run defense got worked last week. Mississippi State's not going to do that on offense, but in a rivalry game, I'm just going to take some points because there's a lot of smoke around Kiffin. Where there's smoke, there's fire. He's at least interested in the job. That much is clear. I think it's hard to get that out of your head, especially in a rivalry game. And someone else talked about this, like Ole Miss, 41% of their rosters new this year. So between recruiting and transfer portal, how many of these kids care about the Egg Bowl compared to Mississippi State? Like,
it's true.
Like, their roster is built of a lot of Mississippi kids. Mississippi State's roster, I think, again, when you're splitting hairs in a rivalry game, that stuff matters. So I will take Mississippi State. I will take the points. I don't think I'm going to need them. I think Mississippi State wins outright. Leach gets his first win. Because if he doesn't, people at Mississippi State are going to start asking questions because this game means everything to both of these schools. And you can't be messing around losing 3 Egg Bowls in a row. So I will take Mississippi State to win and cover. All right. Next game, we go to Friday. Cincinnati and Tulane. It's kind of the same situation we were talking about with Texas and Kansas State. The winner of this game goes on to play UCF in the AAC championship game. Cincinnati's at home, a 2.5-point favorite. Where are you going in Cincy?
Yeah, this one, it's tough because I think Tulane has been the more flashy team this year, the more fun and hot team, I guess you could say. But Cincinnati just keeps showing up, man. They just keep showing up, winning games, being in, just well coached. I think that because this coaching staff has been in this position before, because some of these players have been in this position before, I think the expectation is that they're going to win, and I think that they do. I think they're going to win outright. It's only 2.5-point spread, so I'm going to lay those points. So give me Cincinnati. I think that this is kind of a statement, them saying, hey, even after losing, so much to the NFL, we're still here. We're still a good team. We're going to go there. That would put them at 10-2 this year on the regular season. I'm going to give them a chance at winning the conference again next week. So, yeah, give me Cincinnati. I think they're built for this. I think the coaching staff, I think everybody's locked in. I also wonder if Willie Fritz with with Tulane, is maybe generating a little buzz as a potential head coach at some of these openings, because he kind of fits what these schools might be looking for as far as the right kind of stepping stone. Whereas, someone like Luke Fickell is a little bit out of their class, or he's kind of more selective, so he's waiting for a different opportunity. So I think he's more locked in at this time of year, whereas they might not be. So kind of for similar reasons that you were going against what Kiffin might be doing because he was distracted. Fritz might be as well. But I think Cincinnati is the better team and the more prepared team for this opportunity.
That's my bad. Sometimes I mute myself while I type, so you don't hear the typing, and then I forget to unmute.
That's respectful. We
I'm
just
gonna...
thought that there was a long pause for if you're listening on podcasts, you're like, hey, there was a long dramatic pause. Jacob is really thinking. If you're on video, you think that we're a Japanese dub film where he's like, his
That's
mouth
right.
is moving, but I'm not hearing anything yet. So sorry, we got to get some subtitles on YouTube.
Hey, it does it automatically. Thanks, YouTube. Man, so I'm going with Tulane plus the points. I think they went outright. This is where I'm going to go with the better running offense in Tulane, better uniforms in Tulane. So important than a rivalry. And
bingo.
This is just a classic like rivalry week. Take the points on rivalry week. And so I think this is a very evenly matched game. I think I want to see a Tulane UCF rematch in the AAC championship personally. With those two running offenses, winner gets to go to a New Year's Six Bowl. I'd love to see Tulane school uniforms in a New Year's Six Bowl. So for that reason, going with Tulane, roll wave. Give me the green wave, Tulane. All right, Daniel, Saturday, let's go to the big one. The game, Ohio State, Michigan in Columbus. Michigan coming off of their first win over Ohio State in the Jim Harbaugh era. Both teams entered the game undefeated. Winner goes to the Big Ten championship and almost guarantees himself a spot in the college football playoff with a win. Daniel, where are you going in Columbus?
That hook is helping me out here because I've been wanting to pick Michigan between these two just for the sheer fact that I think Ohio State is going to play this close to the vest. I think they're the better team. I think they should be good enough to win by 10 to 14 points. They should. We know that this is college football. I think that Ryan Day is going to be somewhat clutching the pearls because it's very important that they just win this game. I'm just calling that out because of last year, the agony of what they went through. Michigan is still a very good team and can go toe-to-toe with them. The Blake Corum thing where he's at least potentially not going to be at full capacity. I do think that they still are able to run the ball. Donovan Edwards, I think they still got talent in that backfield. I think the offense will still be able to move the ball on Ohio State. I'm taking Michigan with the points. I like that it's up over a touchdown. And this is mostly about Ohio State. I think Ohio State is going to play to win the game, but not necessarily have style points. They know that they are in with a win, and that's what they're going to do. So give me Michigan and the 7.5, but I think Ohio State wins.
Ditto on everything you just said. Yeah, give me Michigan. The hook helps. Corum's not going to be 100%. I think if you're Michigan, you cannot win this game without your best player, especially because Donovan Edwards didn't play last week either. And so that 1-2 punch, does Donovan Edwards play? Is he at 100%? That to me is I have a hard time seeing Michigan beat Ohio State without those two. This game's not predicted to have crazy weather like it did last year, which I did think play into Michigan's favor. I do think Ohio State wins. And I'll just say this. I don't trust Ohio State to beat a team as good as Michigan by more than 7 points. I just don't. They have not yet this year. And look, I picked Ohio State to win the national championship. I keep waiting on them to flip the elite switch. Like, okay, you're playing somebody good. Go ahead and show us why you're a top 3 team. Go ahead and show us why you're capable of winning a national championship. Georgia's done that this year. Like, Georgia's had some sloppy games, Georgia has flipped the switch in games when they played good opponents and showed that, like, hey, we're on. I've yet to see that from Ohio State. Do they do that in this game? If they do, it'll be the first time all year. So I will be wrong. I'm happy being wrong if they do it for the first time this year. But I'm not gonna bet on them doing something they haven't done yet this season. I do think Ohio State wins. I said last year before the game that I picked Ohio State to win and cover because it's sad when the big dog in the rivalry treats this rivalry game like it's everything. And I think finally Michigan started treating this game like it's everything. Because Ohio State, I mean, I've been in that facility, Daniel. They've got a countdown to this game. As soon as this game's over, it'll be a countdown to the game next year. I think that matters in this kind of game, but I think, again, Michigan has elevated as a program. That hook, if it was 6.5, I think I'd lay it. But at 7.5, I'll
It's
take
that
Michigan
close.
in the
Yeah,
points. It's that close.
I agree.
So
I agree. Jacob, since you're a uniform connoisseur, I was about to say great uniform matchup. Then I remembered who's home and who's away. I think it would be.
I still think it's great.
It's still great. Would the better matchup be the other side with having Michigan if they wear the maize pants? I'm putting that as a caveat because last year they wore the all navy. I remember you being upset about it.
Yes, I was
Rightfully
very much
so.
so.
And I think Ohio State has better away uniforms than Michigan does. So when Michigan's at home wearing the maize pants and Ohio State wearing their traditional away
Yes,
uniforms,
that is the
that's a
look.
phenomenal look.
Yes.
This will still look good so long as Ohio State doesn't get froggy and do something with like black or
I don't think they're
anything
going
crazy.
to.
This can be
But again,
regular.
I need Michigan to wear the maize pants on the road too. That to me is their best away look. The blue pants are good too.
That'd be strong. That'd be
The
strong.
white pants I'm not a fan of. They wore those for the first several years under Harbaugh, and I'm like, these are just boring. Like,
They're like
but
his khaki pants that he wears.
yeah, like the winged helmet that's navy with yellow, the blue numbers, mace pants. That's also an elite look. So if they wear the mace pants, we're looking at an elite look, elite uniform matchup on Saturday, and that's the important analysis you're going to get here on the extra.
I think people care because I think we have a following of people that look for great uniform matchups because they want to know, and what makes you tick, Jacob. So that makes me happy
I
knowing that we
appreciate
talked
it.
about it. Yeah,
I'm glad we talked about it too. Ohio State, Michigan, a great uniform matchup. Hey, UCLA delivered last week with a
we
great
got a
uniform
really
matchup.
good
So
uniform matchup coming up
we
that we're going to
do,
talk about
and we're
later.
going to talk about it. All right, next game. It's not this one. Clemson
No,
in South
definitely not.
Carolina, the Palmetto Bowl. Clemson at home. They have that home win streak of 39 games, I think it is. 14.5-point favorites against their in-state rivals, South Carolina. South Carolina coming off of that huge win against Tennessee last week. Daniel, where are you going in Clemson?
All right, so this one is actually very difficult. I think Vegas did a phenomenal job with this line at 14 and a hook. It makes it very hard to lay with Clemson unless you are feeling very confident that they're going to put this one away. Obviously, this one matters to both schools tremendously. South Carolina coming off that win, I think could be one of two things. It could be that they're hungover from the high of beating a Tennessee team that was trying to look like Clemson with those orange helmets last week. They may have gotten confused and fired off a week early. I don't know. It also could be that they're riding high and feeling confident for the first time all year, and they're able to hang or even overtake Clemson. Now, I am going with my boy Kyle Colavita, and I'm going to take Clemson to cover 14.5. The reason I'm going to do that is because I think they're comfortable in this rivalry. I do think there's going to be that hangover effect from South Carolina that they are going to be riding high, beating a potential playoff team and stopping them from doing what they need to do. And I think Clemson's going to be able to move the ball consistently, and their defense is nothing like what Spencer Rattler just got to face in the Tennessee defense. They will get stops. They will play field position, which I think is just huge in a game like this. Also, Clemson's at home. So give me Clemson. I'm going to lay these points. I think this like 16, 17-point win. I feel good about something in the 30s to something in the teens. That feels just about right to me. So give me Clemson, lay those points.
So Clemson, I'm just looking back at their schedule here. Wake Forest, 6-point overtime win. NC State, 10-point win. Florida State, 6-point win. Syracuse, 6-point win. Notre Dame, 21-point loss. Louisville, 14-point win. Daniel, none of those were over 14.5. And South Carolina is better than half those teams. So I'll take these points in a rivalry game. Now, I do think if this was not Clemson, hangover spot for sure. Like, just bet it all on the other side of South Carolina. I think it can have the opposite effect going into a rivalry game. Like, hey, you just took down a top 5 team in the country. You can beat anybody. And like, they have not beaten Clemson in the college football playoff era. Like, they have a 7-game losing streak, an 8-game losing streak going into this game. I don't think South Carolina is going to win, but man, I'm hoping for a good game. So I will take the points. That hook's important. If this was sitting like a 12.5, 13.5, I think I'm taking Clemson. But I think South Carolina has a good enough secondary to not shut down, but it really limit Clemson's passing attack. And I think the proof is in last week, right? Like, you faced a way more efficient passing attack last week in Tennessee. I think they can make DJU throw them the ball this week. Then it's which South Carolina offense shows up. Is it the one that showed up against Florida and scored no points? Is it the one that shows up against Tennessee and scored 63 points? Obviously, Clemson's defense is not Clemson's defense is not Tennessee's defense.
Right.
That's for sure. But I will take all of these 14.5 points. So another rivalry underdog. All right, Daniel, let's go to Oregon State. I heard some really good talk about this week. They stopped calling it the Civil War. Here's the thing, Daniel. We're not the only country that's ever had a civil war. Civil wars happen all the time. What's wrong with calling this rivalry the Civil War? It makes sense, right? So the Civil War between Oregon and Oregon State is in Corvallis this year. Oregon State is a 3.5-point dog at home. Where are you going in Corvallis?
It's the first time I really thought about it, but beavers and ducks in the wild, they're probably pretty territorial. They're both going after the same pond.
These are two great mascots for that area of the country too. Like, it's good. Great.
It's good. I haven't put a whole lot of thought into it. I feel like I'm channeling my Mike Leach vibes, just because that's kind of how he goes with this. But this one, again, we're not sponsored by any type of Vegas or anything like that. But I keep touting them. Vegas with this 3.5-point spread. I think this being more than 3 is important. I think Oregon's the better team. Last week, they kind of held on with, Bo Nix going in and going out and not being 100%. Really not sure what we're going to get this week, if he's going to be able to hang the whole time. Oregon State is going to give it all they got in this game. That's what's so great about this week, though. When I say this week's so interesting. Last time dealing with Oregon State and Washington, I believe was the last time we picked an Oregon State game. That game was a 3.5-point spread as well, I believe. And it ended up being a 3-point game. So that stresses me out a little bit because I really want to take Oregon. I think they're the better team. I think that, they've got a lot to play for as far as the Pac-12 championship, all of that, potential Rose Bowl on the line. I think they win this game. This 3.5 is giving me some pause, but I'm going to lay it anyways because at the end of the day, they're the better team, and I can easily see them winning by a touchdown, much less if it's just like a 4-point game or something like that. I think they could do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon State is maybe tied with them at half or maybe has a lead, and then Oregon has to really exude a lot more effort than they thought in the second half to not only win but cover. So give me Oregon, lay the points.
I'm with you. Lay the points with Oregon here. Here's the thing. These are my Beavers. I love Oregon State. Here's the thing. Rivalry week is all about vibes. So all these picks have been vibes so far. So for you saying like, I feel like Mike Leach, it's okay. It's a rivalry week. So this is all vibes.
Should be.
Preseason, I picked Oregon to go 10-2 and to play for the Pac-12 championship. I picked Oregon State to go 8-4. So heading into this game, you have a 9-2 Oregon and an 8-3 Oregon State. So I will take Oregon to win and cover. And we will have 10-2 Oregon playing for a Pac-12 championship and 8-4 Oregon State. So just how I
fit just right.
So
yeah,
it's right. Lay the points with the Ducks. I do hope Bo Nix plays, and I hope he is effective because I wonder how much he plays though. If they can get a lead and pull him, get him ready for next week. Obviously, he's healthy enough to play. If it's just pain tolerance, I do think he goes. Curious to see how that one plays out in this one. All right, Daniel, this one's the only one on here that's not really a rivalry, but important because the stakes that are on the line here. TCU is undefeated. They're 11-0. They are at home. Last regular season game, 10.5-point spread against Iowa State. Does TCU finish the drill? Do they win and cover against Iowa State? Where are you going in Fort Worth?
Yeah, I might kind of keep this one simple. I think that TCU wins. I just don't think that they cover 10.5 points. I think they're certainly good enough to do it. They've shown this year that they can. I think that they are going to. I don't think they're going to do the whole, heart attack, come from behind win. But I just don't think. I think they'll kind of keep Iowa State at arm's length, but they're not going to be able to just run away and hide. Iowa State's got some pride, and I think they'll be able to kind of hold TCU in check with their defense, and then they'll get enough. They'll get enough on them, as far as scoring. So I actually expect this one to somewhat be low scoring. I could see this one being in the 20s. I know that sounds weird to say that's low scoring in general, but for the Big 12, it is. So I could see it being maybe like, I don't know, 20, 27, 21, something like that, where they just don't quite pull away. Maybe it's a late touchdown by Iowa State to cover, but I do think Iowa State covers, but TCU wins.
Kelly Ford, friend of the show, has these what if rankings. All right. So it's what if every one possession game had the opposite result? The Big 12 one is interesting because if every one possession game was flipped, you'd have Iowa State sitting here at 9-2, atop the Big 12 standings. TCU sitting at 6-5, at 6th in the Big 12. That tells me both of these teams have played a lot of one possession games. One of these teams has lost a lot of them, and that would be Iowa State. TCU obviously is 11-0. That means they've won 5 one-possession games. Daniel, college football has a really funny way of sorting itself out. And I think that we just get a little bit of chaos in that bottom half of the top 4 conversation this week. I'm going to take Matt Campbell as a dog to win outright against TCU. They can't keep getting away with it. All right. They look, I know TCU is a really good team. Way too many one possession games. If you're giving me 10.5, I will for sure take them. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Iowa State beats TCU, ruins the undefeated season. Then we have a lot of fun next week trying to decide between like a 1-loss Michigan Ohio State loser, a 1-loss USC. Did they get beat in the Pac-12? Did they lose this week? We're about to talk about USC. So a lot of fun sorting out
2-loss Alabama.
Those last 2 spots. Not off the table, unfortunately.
Yeah. Jacob Carnes with a K. He did it. He picked Iowa State outright. over
outright.
TCU.
Last game. Let's get to that other contender. USC coming in at 10-1, hosting Notre Dame. A phenomenal uniform matchup, if I do say so myself, in LA.
What uniform would be better? I like this question now.
The opposite.
The opposite.
Notre Dame at home.
Notre Dame is at home with USC away.
I like USC's away jerseys a lot. That's one of my favorite away uniforms in college football.
They are very pretty. Just the colors work. It pops. But
I have a good top three.
Either.
We'll get to it. I want your top three away jerseys. I've already got mine. Uniform combos. So USC, Notre Dame. USC is 5.5-point favorites at home. Where are you going in the Coliseum?
Yeah, there's a lot of these middles, I feel like, where you can take the points, but you think that the other team's going to win. I feel similar here. I think USC has so much to play for. They're going to be selling out for the win. I think Notre Dame is going to cover that. Notre Dame is a better team in the last few weeks. Ever since that Clemson win has really, I think, given them confidence. I know that last week was Boston College, but I mean, they did what you're supposed to do with that kind of a team, and they put them away, and they forgot about them. That's how they threw away the key. It was just a beatdown. I think Notre Dame can win this game outright, and by some metrics, by some instances, I think you could make a case that they should. But USC's favored for a reason. 5.5 points, I think, is a little rich because I think this one's going to be close. I think it's going to be definitely a one-possession game. I think USC might have to battle to get the last score and put themselves in the lead. So I'm going to take Notre Dame in these points. I feel confident that they can win outright, but nonetheless, I don't think that USC is running away and hiding from them. So give me Notre Dame, give me the points, 5.5.
It's rivalry week, Daniel. 5.5 is in fact too many points. Let's just add a little chaos into the mix. Notre Dame goes into the Coliseum and they beat USC outright. This is a team that has turned their season around. Ever since that Stanford loss, Notre Dame has scored over 30 points in every game, or they scored 35 or more in every game. So the offense finally found something after that Stanford game. They've kind of circled the wagons and been a much better football team. That Navy game, they did give up 32 points, different kind of offense that was coming off the Clemson game. So perfect letdown spot. You got out with a win. But since the Stanford game, 44-21, 41-24, 35-14 against Clemson, 35-32, 44-0 against Boston College last week. This is a Notre Dame team that has been a different team second half of the season. They are very highly power rated. I do think 5.5 points is too much, but I'm just going to, again, I'll go out on a limb here and say Notre Dame wins outright in the Coliseum. College football has a funny way of sorting itself out. USC is not, again, they are not in jeopardy of the Pac-12 championship. Of course, that's not their goal right now. It's winning this game and staying in playoff contention. But Notre Dame goes into the Coliseum and beats USC on Saturday night. And a great uniform matchup. Daniel, what are some of your favorite away uniforms in college football?
I feel like I'm cheating because I'm going to say one that you always talk about because LSU can wear their home as their away because they wear white at home.
That's fair. I'm not going to count that one because I count that as their home uniform. But if we're talking best white jersey uniforms in college football, then USC is squarely in my top three. Excuse me, LSU.
Yeah, but you have USC in your top three as well.
It is. So if I'm not counting LSU, it's USC. Ohio State. Yeah.
Wait, Georgia. Can I guess the third one? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Georgia.
It's okay. You already said it. They have a good one. Obviously, silver breeches, white with the black letters.
Red helmet.
Or black numbers. Yeah, and then the red helmet. It all pops. It all looks good. It's tough to beat that. I would say all of that and then raise you the Texas all whites.
Like the stormtrooper look.
Pretty clean look. Yeah. So I'll throw that one out there. I like
I say
Texas all
Clemson with
whites.
an asterisk because their normal away uniform I don't like. But when they wear the orange pants with the white jersey and orange helmet, and the stripe on the helmet is the same as the stripe on the pants,
Ooh,
that thing pops. So
very strong.
I'm a
Very
sucker
strong.
for matching your stripes. All right. Florida does this consistently across their uniforms. The stripe on the helmet is the same on the sleeve of the jersey and the pants on every uniform. No matter what color the stripe is on, it's just like it's almost like transparent. If the blue is on blue pants, then it's just like it's the same on everything. Respect for that. So we need to do another whole podcast in the off season on uniforms because I am
We'll do
passionate.
one that's all away and one that's all home.
That's right.
I mean,
We got time.
we'll dig into it, but we felt like we had to at least call it out because of some great matchups this week with some
Oh
uniforms.
yeah.
So
And we're gonna have some great ones in championship weekend. So we'll be talking about them then too next week. But be sure to follow us on social media and on YouTube at the Extra Point Pod. You can follow Daniel on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. That will do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob.